Hello, this is Kenneth Reese, the founder, owner, operator of WataugaOnline.com. And today I have a special guest with me, an old buddy of mine. Man, we've known each other over 10 years easily.
Oh, yeah.
And this old boy was on Wheel of Fortune last night. Now, I should tell our viewers that we're recording this on Tuesday, June the 6th at just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So, David Jones, how are you, my good man?
I'm doing great. Will be about $5,000 wealthier in about 120 days. But I'm doing great. Had a great watch party last night with some friends and had a big time. It was the first time I had seen the show since we taped it. So I was surprised at how much I had forgotten about that day and the other contestants and the other puzzles. But I'm doing well this morning, Ken. It's good to talk to you, man.
I need to introduce you to some of our viewers that may not know you. You are a longtime UPS delivery driver here in the high country. How many years now? You said it on the show last night, but I forgot.
March was 29 years with UPS.
29 years. And David and I also know each other through radio. He has a sports talk show and calls high school football games there in Caldwell County and has for years. So he's no stranger to radio and media. So there's the intro for folks that may not know you. Well, tell us how it began. How did you get to the audition process for Wheel of Fortune to begin with?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I had broken an ankle, and so I was out of work for a while, and I was sitting at the dining room table one night scrolling through Instagram and saw an ad pop up that said, "Do you like Star Wars and do you like Wheel of Fortune?" And I happen to like both of those things. I've always been a fan of word games like Scrabble and things like that, and always been, of course, a Star Wars fan. And so I filled out an online application, and it was pretty basic. And there was a place to upload a video, which I didn't even do. I think the thing that put me over the top, KR, was the questions. There were about 6 of them that were Star Wars specific. And one of the questions was, do you have any Star Wars merchandise or collectibles? And if so, tell us about it. And as you know, for Star Wars super fans, asking someone about their Star Wars collection is like asking a grandparent about their grandchild. So I tried to keep all my answers funny. And so this was my exact answer to the question. I said, yes, I had every figure and playset that Kenner made from 1977 to 1983. Tragically, they were all destroyed in a house fire when the Death Star blew up my homeworld. So I think that may have gotten their attention because I got an email back that said, can you do a 5-minute Zoom interview with the producer? So I did that. Following that, they said, well, you made it past that round. Can you do an hour-long Zoom interview with another producer and play an online version of Wheel? I did that. And then it was basically, don't call us, we'll call you. If you make it, we'll let you know. And I didn't think I had a chance. Did not think I had a chance. And about a week later, and this would have been early to mid-February, they said, you've made it. We want you to be on Wheel of Fortune for Star Wars Galactic Celebration. Can you be in Los Angeles in 10 days? And so wow. It was a whirlwind. It was a blur.
So the first process that you went through, now you're a radio guy on the side, audio guy. It was all written word.
Yes, it was an online application, just like wow. You were filling out a job application. Yeah, nothing.
So this was in December, roughly.
February. It would have been in January, dude. It was really quick. Like if I filled out that application in mid to late January, it was early February that the ball was already rolling.
So they say, can you be in LA? And you're like, sure. Now you're having to fly out there on your dime, right?
Correct. Wheel of Fortune. I don't know about other game shows, but they do. It's not an all expense paid trip. You're obligated to get yourself out there. And the one cool thing about Wheel of Fortune that's different than almost every other game is if you go out there and fall on your face and you wind up with 0, they give you $1,000.
Oh, wow.
So that, and they do have a partner hotel. It's about 15 minutes from Sony Picture Studios where they film Wheel of Fortune. and you get that at a discounted rate. And of course, I still checked around, but it was a good deal. And so if you can get out there and you can make the time for it, you'll come back with something. Might not be a lot, but you'll come back with something.
So how did the audition process work once you got out there? I mean, are you on the main set, or are you just in a room with producers and kind of doing a mock game, or how does that work?
Yeah, most of the mock games that we did to determine if they wanted you were done online. In one, they do say that you appear on the show at the producer's discretion. So if you get out there and something was off, that they still have the legal right for you to not be there. But yeah, really, once you get out there, the only practicing you do is to practice to prepare for the game itself. And there's really good coaching. Your producers that get with you, you're like a little small group, and they coach you up and remind you to buy vowels and say if it's a certain kind of puzzle, don't forget to think in this way. And so they really do a great job. They don't just throw you out there. It's quick. They want to keep things moving, but they do coach you up a lot.
That's one of the questions, and I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but there again, being a former radio guy, you're a radio guy, we're always taught pronunciation, enunciate. Yes. And, that's a big thing on that show, no matter who the contestant is. Do the producers kind of drill in your head to enunciate?
Yes, you need to say enunciate about 8 more times. As a matter of fact, the group that I was out there with, we've kind of stayed in touch on an Instagram group. And it's one of the shocking things about it is the amount of trolls that are out there for people who are on game shows. And one of the answers to one of the puzzles last week was like hot caramel sundae. And of course, being from the South, we don't say caramel, we say caramel. Yeah. And the guy who solved the puzzle, it wasn't me. This guy actually lives in California, but he solved hot caramel sundae, and they gave it to him. And Wheel of Fortune does say they allow for regional dialects or even speech impediments. If they think you know the word, they will give it to you. What you can't do is add or leave off an S or, completely change the pronunciation of the word. So enunciate. Why people shout the letters on there, they tell you speak loudly, speak to the back of the room.
So how long from the audition process do you know that you're on the show? I mean, do you basically already know that you're pretty much on when you're going to LA, or how did that work?
Yes. Yeah. If you get the email that says you're on the show, then I feel like unless you have been untruthful in some way, if you've been using a filter, you show up there and you've got face tattoos, in real life, the producer may say, we can't do that. So they have a legal right if something had been untruthful. But once you show up in Burbank, you're pretty much going to be on the show.
All right. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep this in succession, because as I was watching the show last night, I wrote down some questions.
Sure.
First things first, how heavy is that wheel to spin? Is it?
It weighs literally over a ton. It weighs more than a ton.
So the effort that you and other contestants, when it looks like you're really having to give it a go, I mean, you have to. It's not light.
Yes. It is not. Leverage is not your friend on there. And of course, when you go to grab something heavy, you try to use leverage. The way you stand on the Wheel of Fortune stage, the platforms are all on hydraulics, so they can raise and lower the contestants.
Oh, your signal cut out on me there.
Sometimes I level the same. You're being cut in the middle, and you can't lean over, but the producer actually sees you.
Your signal
okay,
cut
just
out
tell
there.
me where I need to back up to.
You're fine now. I understand that. If I understand you correctly, those platforms are on hydraulics. So for television purposes, everybody kind of looks the same height. You don't want to have a large discrepancy.
Right. So it's tough. So they do teach you how to spin the wheel. And you'll notice a lot of times smaller people or older people will have trouble getting that thing all the way around. That thing's heavy.
So you get a couple of practice turns with it before shooting the episode.
Yeah, there's a mock game that the contestants play ahead of time to kind of get you in the groove a little bit of how things will go during the actual game.
Did that help settle the nerves? Were you nervous at all when the actual filming started?
A little bit. Your nerves are really from the time the producer calls your group from the studio audience. All the contestants set off to the side in the studio audience. When they call you down to what passes as their green room and the game before you is wrapping up and you're going out there, then it kind of hits like, okay, this is real. This is really happening. But honestly, once Wheel of Fortune and Pat and Vanna and you do the first spin, man, you don't have time to be nervous. If you're nervous at that point, you're not going to do well because that game is moving so quickly. You better know what you're doing before you do it.
Now, how many people's in that studio audience roughly? Because unlike Price is Right, and I don't know about Jeopardy anymore, but sometimes Price is Right especially will show like the crowd. Of course, they're calling people down from the crowd, but I have never seen a shot that I know of the Wheel of Fortune live studio crowd. How many folks are in that roughly?
It does seem to be rare that they show the studio. You'll see the studio audience a lot at the end in the bonus round. Like if that person brought a husband, a wife, or mom or dad with them. We were the first show coming out of the pandemic that allowed studio audiences back in.
Oh, wow.
And my guesstimation, it's not a big crowd. I would say if every seat was filled, maybe 250, 300 people.
Oh, that many.
It's not massive. Yeah, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. It's not like thousands of people are in there.
Now, one of the things that folks may not know, all of these game shows, they have a filming schedule. They don't film year round.
Mm-hmm. No.
And they'll film a certain number of shows a day or a week. What number show were you in this filming schedule?
Yeah, we had 20 total contestants, 18 players, and 2 alternates. And we shot 6 shows in one day. Wow. I was in the first group of contestants whose names were called. They assign you, very much like bingo or lottery. You're assigned a number and they pull your number, the balls out of a hat to get your group, and then they pull groups out of a hat. So I was in the first group called and the last game. I was last week. They went in the order that they were taped.
Okay, you'll have to say that again. Your signal cut out a little bit. You were in the first group called, but the last game filmed?
That's correct. Yeah, they pull your names out of a hat to group you together. So 18 people in the room, they're pulling out the names 3 at a time. That's your group. And then they assign your groups a number and they pull that out. And I was the first group called, last game called. So I saw all the other shows that happened last week on the air as they were taped live. Before
we get into the game itself, and again, for our viewer, I'm talking with David Jones. He appeared on Wheel of Fortune on Monday night, June the 5th, taped it several months ago, of course. Did you get to meet Pat and Vanna at all? Or is everything kind of so structured they just don't have time to meet and greet?
So while we were out there, none of the contestants had to wear masks, but the set is a unionized set in Los Angeles with the Screen Actors Guild. So at that time, they were still wearing masks. And so while we were getting our final run through from the producers, some lady came in, jeans, flannel shirt, mask on. She's like, hey, and we're like, hey. And then she pulled her mask down and it was Vanna White. And so she came in to kind of say hello and say, I just want to see who was playing today. And Vanna actually interacts a lot with the studio audience, like during the commercial breaks. She goes over and talks to them and answers questions and all that. Pat, the only time we saw him was when we were playing. He would chit chat with us a little bit, coming out of the commercial and into the taping. But he has things. He, I guess, gets makeup touched up and stuff during the commercials. Very friendly, very gregarious guy. But again, if I had to describe the whole Wheel of Fortune experience in one word, it would probably be pace. I mean, they keep things moving, and so there's not a lot. And again, the contestants are there for 12 hours on taping day, so I guess they got a lot to get through.
Two little nerdy facts. If I'm not mistaken, I think Vanna is from South Carolina originally.
He's from Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach,
He's
yeah.
from Myrtle Beach.
And Pat, I talk about me being a former radio guy, and you're a radio guy. He owns a radio station, or did own a radio station. I guess he still does out in California. So that's my two nerdy facts about them.
Well, I know. Okay, I'll see your two nerdy facts and raise you two nerdy facts. Vanna White was a contestant on Price is Right as a teenager, like 18, 19 years old. And I've read it in more than one place. Pat Sajak was in Armed Forces Radio during Vietnam. And many people say that the Robin Williams character in the movie Good Morning Vietnam was based, at least loosely, on Pat Sajak. And you can see that once you meet him and know him. He is a jokester. What little I interacted with him, he is the guy you see on TV. He's very funny, very quick.
Now that you mention that, I recall that. I won't keep you much longer. Let's get into the game itself. Man, you were in control there for a while. You won the first, it's the toss up.
Mm-hmm.
So you won that first one. What were you thinking after you won that one?
I was thankful. I thought, okay, now I won't at least have an offer. It moved so quickly. I was hoping, and they go right toss up into the chat with Pat. And so I was trying to remember the names that I wanted to say and the things that I wanted to say, and not mess up the interview part. There were some things that got edited out of that. Pat and I kind of had a little back and forth. That was funny. They got edited out. But really, after the first puzzle, I just thought, okay, remember my wife and my 4 kids' name, remember my bio. And then because you put, 8 or 10 things on the card and Pat picks from them, you don't know what he's going to ask you about. So you've got to be ready to answer all of them. And a lot of times you'll see contestants stumble. I'm glad I didn't stumble. That was really the main thing. Don't embarrass myself.
Yeah, you did fantastic. Well, you solved the next puzzle too, didn't you?
I can't remember the order now, Kenneth. We watched it last night in a group setting, and we were all talking, and I was explaining things. I think I'm pretty certain I solved more puzzles than anyone.
You did, and I've got down in my notes that you solved at least 3, and it might have been more. I actually went back and watched it again after like the original airing. But you're right, you solved more than anybody. Thoughts about that? I mean, you were kind of in a groove.
I hit a lot of big dollar wedges, $3,500 and things like that. Of course, I hit bankrupt a time or two. So I
was gonna say, man, those bankrupts got you.
Well, and so let me begin at the end. I was in control of the wheel for the final round, and I did what everybody wants to do. I landed on $5,000. Then the show adds 1,000, so every consonant was worth $6,000. Now that's great for the winner, but when you land on a big wedge at the end, what that allows to happen is it's literally anybody's game. Because usually winning dollar amounts in Wheel of Fortune are from $9,000 to $19,000. So if you've got $6,000 a pop, you get 2 or 3 letters, and a couple of them repeat. And you saw Erica Peters from New York and Rob Degnan from Florida. She went from, I don't think she spun, but that she didn't land on bankrupt.
Yeah.
And she went from last place to first place. So for me, here's what happened. I was playing conservatively because there were so many bankrupts, and I had been hit and lost $12,000, $15,000. And once I knew the puzzle, I thought I'll spend one, maybe twice, take my money and run. But I think there was one time I solved a puzzle for like $650, and the show bumped it up to 1,000. So if I had it to do over, I may be a little more aggressive on the spins, but I was just gun shy with all of the bankrupts that were popping up like mushrooms after a rain. So I just went for the spin. But again, once I landed on $5,000, I knew at that point it was anybody's game. And I knew it when Erica knew it. And if she hadn't gotten it, I would have been in the bonus round. So I'm very for her. She's a sweet girl. Rob is a good guy. And we're still in touch. But everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to win, and I came up just a little bit short.
So the money that each contestant wins per puzzle, that goes into a cumulative amount, if I'm saying all this correctly. So does just the main winner get that money, or does everybody get what they win?
That is the great thing about Wheel of Fortune. Everybody keeps what you win. If you win the round, you bank that money. Now, if you don't win the round, you don't get your money. But if you solve every puzzle except the last one, and the person who solved the last one makes the bonus round, you still keep your money, which is very different than, say, Jeopardy. If you come in second place on Jeopardy with $75,000, you drop all the way down to $2,000.
Wow.
You don't get to keep what you win. But on Wheel of Fortune, you do whatever you bank from round to round. If you win a round, you get to keep.
So, and I won't keep you much longer. We're running out of time here. Again, talking with David Jones on Wheel of Fortune last night, and we're recording this on Tuesday, June the 6th. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you finished with what, 5,550?
5,550 all cash. Rob second with a little over, I think he had about $9,800, but unfortunately for him, about 8,000 of that was wrapped up in a trip to Hawaii. Erica, she won the final round, and I think hers was all cash too, because hers was the bulk in that final round. So she walked away with 18,000 and some odd dollars. And what was so funny, and KR, this was part of the challenge of the game. We had no idea at the beginning of each round if the puzzles were Star Wars related or not. So Erica won some toss-ups, and the answers to the puzzle were like bridesmaids and groomsmen. And in the aftermath of the show, her fiance proposed to her.
Oh, wow.
And she had no idea that was – so those puzzles kind of led right in to the phase of her life, which that was really neat. But that was kind of one of the biggest challenges, was you didn't know, if the puzzle answer was place, it could have been Tatooine or Boulder City, Colorado. You just didn't know. And so that really kept you, on pins and needles, wondering what it was going to be.
One last question for you. And if you don't want to answer this is fine. But a lot of folks don't realize that prizes won on game shows are taxable. Are they taxable in California and the state you live in as well, or just the state you live in?
I do not know the answer to that yet. And in fact, I was talking to someone at the watch party last week. I'm about to find out. I'm not giving anything away here because it's actually on the Wheel of Fortune website. I don't have the money yet. I won't have the money until October. They wait
so long.
I don't know what their reasoning is, but you are awarded your payment if you win cash 120 days after the date your show airs. So there's June, July, August, September, October. And I don't know. Am I going to be taxed in North Carolina and California? Because if I am, I should bring home at least $12 or $15. I feel confident in that I'll get at least a lunch at Burger King out of this whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. I've tried to read the fine print and it's just too fine. I think it's in Braille. So ask me about Halloween.
I will. I'll come trick-or-treating at your house.
Yeah, good chocolates this year to Joel's house.
Well, man, I appreciate your time. Anything you want to leave us with? We're getting down on our time limit with Zoom here. I think they limit you to 30 minutes now or something. Yeah. And but anything that I didn't touch on that you want to kind of hit on?
Oh man, you could go for a long time on the whole trip and the personal side and the game side of it. But I really would probably close the way I closed with the watch party last night. I had dreams of coming back with 30, 40, $50,000, maybe winning, the big one at the end. But if you told me before I went out there that you would have a fun trip, meet some cool people, get to be on national television and come back with more money than you left with, I think anybody would jump at that opportunity. And so as I was flying back on a red eye from California to North Carolina, I was praying about it. And I just felt like the Lord said, David, before you went out there, you were the richest guy on the show because of my wife and kids and my friends and my job and getting to do interviews like this with Watauga Online. I mean, who gets to do this, man? I'm getting to do this. So I'm blessed. I've got nothing to complain about. And I'm a happy camper, man.
Well, man, I'm proud to call you a friend for the last, I say 10 years, but it's been longer than that because my daughter just turned 15.
Yeah.
And I was still working in radio around when she was born, I guess. So we've known each other that long for sure.
Yeah.
And man, you did great last night. It was good to see your watch party pictures on Facebook. You looked like you had a packed venue there where you were. That was cool.
We had a crowd, and we're still wearing the shirt. This is the shirt I wore on the show. I didn't put my name tag back on this morning, but this is the shirt that I wore on the show.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you, and I know you and I will be talking off air about all kinds of things in the coming days, but I appreciate your time here, and I hope our viewers certainly enjoyed this little insight into your, I guess, now big time claim to fame.
Well, everybody's got 15 minutes, I guess. But I appreciate all you do. I've enjoyed your interviews with Scott Elliott and others over the years and the way you keep the high country informed, not only with the road conditions, but the other news and all the pictures that you share. So you do a great job, KR. Keep it up.
I appreciate you, buddy. That's David Jones. Again, you may recognize him as a longtime UPS driver here in the area. And if you are in Lenoir and Caldwell County, you will know his voice from his Saturday morning sports show and calling high school football games down there in Caldwell. All righty, I'm Kenneth Reese, the founder, owner, operator of WataugaOnline.com. I appreciate your time, the viewer, and we'll catch you soon.